The benefits of simplified technical English. The use of STE not only improves readability but also significantly reduces translation costs, as the word count typically decreases by 20% or more, and the remaining text becomes more repetitive, thus improving yield from translation memory. The lead time for translation is also reduced accordingly, and if your documents are translated from English into several languages, it makes sense to polish up the English before translation, as you can reap the benefits for each target language. The translations will also to some extent be more controlled compared to a translation from Standard English. Now, I'm also going to share with you a few examples of technical content written in its original format versus a simplified technical English way of presentation. So, for instance, the patient must be able to be moved. And in simplified English, we would simply say, make sure that it is safe to move the patient. Now, in the next example about a control panel for medical equipment, in the original text, it reads like this. Both the C-arm stand and the monitor card have a control panel. The two control panels always show the same screen, enabling you to use them for system operation. Depending on the selected function, other controls that include the buttons, input boxes, displays, etc. will appear on the control panel screen. And the Vision Center control panel is designed as a touch screen. For system operation, just press the desired button or option directly on the touch screen. Now, in simplified English, this is how we would write the same text, giving the same message, except in a clearer manner. So the C-arm stand and the monitor card each have a control panel screen. These screens show the same control panel, and each panel lets you operate the system, and the panels have different controls for different functions. The control panel is a touch screen, and to operate the system, touch the correct button or option. Now you'll realize that when writing in simplified technical English, 70% of the time the text actually becomes shorter without losing the original meaning that the technical writer intended to convey in his or her text. Okay, so the next example is about the rigging of the elevator trim control system of an aircraft. So in its original text, the first sentence reads like this. Loosen travel stop blocks on trim tab cables and disconnect actuator screw from link to trim tab. And in simplified English, we would say, loosen the travel stop block on the trim tab cables. In the next sentence, which is quite a long one in its original format, it says to check cable tension and readjust turnbuckle if necessary. Re-safety turnbuckle, and if chains and or cables are being installed, permit actuator screw to rotate freely as chains and cables are connected. Set cable tension with turnbuckle and safety the turnbuckle. Well, you could see that in this second step, there simply are too many actions or work steps to be performed within one step. And in simplified technical English, we prefer to have one instruction per step. So instead of what was originally written in simplified English, we would simply say that in step 2, you disconnect the actuator screw that connects the link to the trim tab, and while in step 3, while you install chains or cables, let the actuator screw turn freely, and in the following step, we adjust the turnbuckle to set the correct cable tension and safety the turnbuckle. Now here in step 3, you see that to adjust the turnbuckle to the right tension and to safety the turnbuckle are work steps that need to happen together, and that is why you would find them both in within the same instructional step. Okay, so in the final work step of this set of instructions, it says to rotate the trim control wheel full forward, nose down, making sure pointer does not restrict trim wheel movement. If necessary, to reposition pointer where it will not restrict trim wheel movement, proceed as follows. Step 1. Remove control pedestal cover. Refer to paragraph 11.5. Loosen nut at trim wheel pivot shaft. Loosen screws securing chain guard. See figure 9.4 far enough that the trim wheel can be removed. So it's a mixture of non-approved tenses uh, um, like the complex verb tense, and also it is this part of the instructions is written in actually a few broken sentences, which is why I sound a little bit awkward when trying to verbalize them. So in simplified technical English, this is how we would put it across to the audience. We turn the trim control wheel fully forward, nose down. If you must move the pointer to let the trim wheel move freely, then you do step number 1, remove the control pedestal cover, see paragraph 11.5, loosen the nut on the pivot shaft of the trim wheel, and finally you loosen the screws that hold the chain guard, see figure 9.4. So the above are a few examples of how we can rewrite sentences in in simplified technical English, making your technical content sound more reader-friendly, user-friendly, and at the same time making sure that your readers will only have to review the instructions or read the instructions once to appreciate and understand what needs to be done and what type of work needs to be completed.